Humble boy asks for a piece of bread. The millionaire changes his story forever. Richard Thompson Walker stopped abruptly at the exit of the imposing commercial building when he felt a light touch on his arm. His schedule was packed. 3 important meetings awaited him that Tuesday morning. But something in the faint voice that whispered, "Please, sir," made him turn completely. That's when he saw the boy, no more than 12 years old, wearing worn but clean clothes, extending a trembling hand toward him. "Just a piece of bread, sir, anything will do," said the boy, his big brown eyes fixed on the ground. Richard was used to ignoring requests on the streets of New York City, but there was something different about this moment. Maybe it was the politeness in the boy's voice or the way he maintained his dignity despite his need. "What's your name, son?" asked the businessman, adjusting his gold-rimmed glasses. "Tyler, sir. Tyler Wilson," the boy replied, finally lifting his gaze. "And where are your parents, Tyler?" The boy hesitated before answering, nervously fiddling with the hem of his faded shirt. "My mom, she works really far away, sir. She left early today and hasn't come back yet. My dad, he's not with us anymore." Richard felt something tighten in his chest. There was a premature maturity in those words, a responsibility no child should carry alone. "You know what we're going to do, Tyler. I'm taking you for a proper breakfast. How does that sound?" The boy's eyes lit up, but soon suspicion clouded his expression. "You don't have to, sir. Just a piece of bread is fine. I don't want to be a bother." "It's no bother at all. Come on, I know a place nearby." Richard guided the boy to a bakery 2 blocks away. During the walk, he noticed how Tyler greeted several shopkeepers and locals in the area. Everyone seemed to know him and treated him with affection. "Good morning, Tyler," called Mrs. Jenkins from the newsstand. "Did your mom get home last night?" "Not yet, Mrs. Jenkins, but she will," the boy replied with a forced smile. Richard noticed the worry in the elderly woman's eyes as she gave the well-dressed businessman a questioning look. At the bakery, Tyler asked only for a roll and a glass of milk. Richard insisted he eat more, but the boy politely refused. "I don't want to waste food, sir. My mom always says we should only take what we can eat." "Your mom sounds like a wise woman," Richard remarked, impressed by the boy's upbringing. "She's the best person in the world," Tyler said, his eyes shining. "She works at 2 houses to support us, leaves early and comes back late. Sometimes she doesn't come back." "What do you mean she doesn't come back?" "When the work is too far, she stays there, but she always sends money with someone we know." Richard began to understand the situation. The boy was alone, taking care of himself while his mother worked as a housekeeper in distant homes. "And where do you live, Tyler?" "In Hopeville, sir. Not far from here. In a little room we rent from Mrs. Simmons." Richard knew of Hopeville by reputation. It was one of the simpler neighborhoods in the area, but had a reputation for being tight-knit and hard-working. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. After breakfast, Richard needed to return to his commitments, but he couldn't get the boy out of his mind. There was something about Tyler that moved him deeply, a mix of innocence and strength he'd never seen before. "Tyler, do you have school today?" "Oh no, sir, no school today. The teacher said there's a problem with the plumbing." "But I like studying," said the boy, pride in his voice. "That's good. Keep studying. It's very important. My mom always says that. She didn't study much, but she wants me to make something of myself." Richard Thompson Walker took a $50 bill from his wallet and offered it to the boy. "No, sir," Tyler stepped back, shaking his head vigorously. "I only asked for a piece of bread. You've already given me way more than that. But this is for you to buy food when your mom isn't around." "I can't accept it, sir. My mom taught me never to take money from strangers. She says it's dangerous." Richard was even more impressed by the boy's integrity. He put the money away and said goodbye, but not before asking for Tyler's exact address. "Why do you want to know where I live?" the boy asked, a mix of curiosity and caution in his voice. "Because I want to meet your mom. I'd like to talk to her about you." "About me? Why?" "Because you're a special boy, Tyler. Your mom must be very proud." The boy smiled shyly and gave the address before running off toward his house. Richard returned to the office but couldn't focus on his meetings. The image of the polite, dignified boy stayed in his mind. During lunch, he decided to call his secretary, Patricia, who had worked with him for over 15 years. "Patricia, I need your help with something. I want you to find out everything about a family living in Hopeville." "Of course, Mr. Richard. Is there a problem?" "No, no problem. It's about a boy I met today. I want to help, but I need to do it the right way." Richard shared all the information he had about Tyler and his mother. Patricia, always efficient, promised to have news by the end of the day. That afternoon, Richard couldn't concentrate on anything else. He cancelled his last meeting and decided to walk around the area where he'd met Tyler. He wanted to understand the boy's world better. Walking through the streets near Hopeville, Richard observed the simple but dignified lives of the people there. Small shops, children playing in the street, adults chatting on the sidewalks. There was a sense of community he didn't feel in his upscale neighborhood. Then he spotted Tyler again, this time helping an elderly man carry grocery bags. The boy didn't see him, but Richard watched from a distance. Tyler refused any payment and even walked the man to his door. "That boy is an angel," commented a woman standing near Richard, "always helping everyone, never asking for anything in return." "Do you know him well?" Richard asked. "I do. That's Tyler, Jessica's son, the most polite boy you'll ever meet. Shame his mom has to work so far away. Sometimes the poor kid spends days alone." "Doesn't she have family to help?" "Family? Poor Jessica. She showed up here pregnant about 13 years ago. Never talked about family. Raised the boy alone, working herself to the bone." Richard grew thoughtful. There was something about Jessica's story that intrigued him. "Do you know where she came from?" "Not exactly. She's very private. But judging by her accent, probably from the countryside, hard-working woman, that's for sure." Richard thanked her for the information and headed home, even more curious about Tyler's family. That night, Patricia called with her first findings. "Mr. Richard, I found some details about the family. Jessica Wilson, 32 years old, works as a housekeeper in 2 homes on the Upper East Side. She's been officially employed for 7 years. Before that, there's not much official record." "What about the boy?" "Tyler Wilson, 12 years old, a good student at the public school. Never been any trouble. Teachers speak very highly of him. Oh, and one interesting thing. There's no father listed on his birth certificate." Richard Thompson Walker grew thoughtful. A young woman arriving alone and pregnant in a big city, working tirelessly to support her son. There was something about this story that stirred him in an inexplicable way. The next morning, Richard decided to return to the spot where he had met Tyler. He wanted to see the boy again, but he also wanted to better understand his own reaction to the situation. It was almost 8 o'clock when he spotted Tyler once more, this time sitting on the same sidewalk where he had asked for bread. Tyler seemed to be waiting for someone, constantly glancing at the public clock in the square. "Good morning, Tyler," Richard greeted as he approached. "Oh, good morning, sir." The boy quickly stood up, a smile on his face. "I didn't expect to see you again. Are you waiting for someone?" "I'm waiting for my mum. She said she'd be here early today, but—" Tyler looked at the clock again, his expression worried. "How long has she been gone?" 3 days, Tyler replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "But it's normal, sometimes work takes longer." Richard noticed the boy was wearing the same clothes as the day before, just a little more wrinkled. "Have you eaten anything today?" "Yes, sir. Mrs. Jenkins gave me bread and butter." "And last night?" Tyler hesitated before answering. "There was some leftover rice at home." Richard understood the boy hadn't eaten properly. Without a word, he took out his phone and called Patricia. "Patricia, I need the exact addresses of the houses where Jessica Wilson works. It's urgent." While waiting for the information, Richard sat down beside Tyler on the sidewalk. "Tyler, do you trust me?" "I think so, sir. You seem like a good person." "Then I want you to let me help you. I'll look for your mom and find out what's going on." "You don't have to, sir. She'll come back." "I'm sure she will. But in the meantime, you need to eat properly and have a place to stay." Tyler was about to protest when Richard's phone rang. It was Patricia with the addresses. "Come on, Tyler, let's find your mom." "But, sir—" "No buts. We'll solve this together." Richard hailed a taxi, and during the ride to the first house on the Upper East Side, he noticed Tyler growing increasingly nervous. The boy bit his lips and fidgeted constantly. "It's okay, Tyler. We'll find your mum." "What if she's mad at me for talking to you?" "Why would she be mad? She always says not to talk to strangers and never to accept anything from anyone." "She's right. But sometimes we need to accept help, Tyler. There's nothing wrong with that." The first house was an imposing townhouse with a well-kept garden and an electronic gate. Richard pressed the intercom and a woman's voice answered. "Good afternoon. I'm looking for Jessica Wilson. Does she work here?" "Jessica? She hasn't come to work in a week. Said she had a family matter to resolve." Richard felt his heart race. He glanced at Tyler, who had gone pale. "Do you have any idea where she might be?" "No, I don't. She's always been very private, but she left a message saying she'd be back soon." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing, Richard thanked her and headed to the second house. Tyler was visibly shaken, but trying to keep his composure. "My mum must be okay," the boy murmured, more to himself than to Richard. "Of course she is, Tyler. We'll find her." The second house was on the other side of the Upper East Side, on an even more luxurious street. When they rang the intercom, an elderly woman answered in person. "Are you looking for Jessica?" she asked, eyeing Tyler curiously. "Yes, ma'am." "I'm Richard Thompson Walker, and this is Tyler, her son." "Oh, so you're Tyler," the woman smiled. "Your mother talks about you so much." "Come in, come in." They were led into an elegant room where the woman, who introduced herself as Mrs. Anderson, offered juice and cookies. "Jessica isn't here today," Mrs. Anderson explained. "She asked for a few days off, said she needed to take care of an urgent personal matter." "Do you know what that matter was?" Richard asked. "Not really, she's very private, but she seemed worried. Said she'd be back as soon as she sorted it out." "When was this?" 5 days ago. She called me, said she couldn't come to work for a few days. I told her it was no problem, that she shouldn't worry." Tyler was growing increasingly restless. Richard noticed the boy was trying not to cry. "Tyler, did your mother leave any clue about where she might be?" "No, sir. She just said she was going to fix a problem and would be back soon." Mrs. Anderson looked at the boy kindly. "Have you been alone at home all this time, Tyler?" "Yes, Mrs. Anderson. But I know how to take care of myself." "Of course you do, dear. Your mother always says how responsible you are, but a child shouldn't be alone for so long." Richard made a decision. "Mrs. Anderson, with your permission, I'll take Tyler to my home while we look for Jessica. He can't stay by himself." "No, sir," Tyler protested. "My mum will be really mad if I'm not home when she comes back." "Tyler, your mother won't be mad. She'll be relieved to know you're being looked after." Mrs. Anderson supported the idea. "Mr. Richard is right, Tyler. Your mother would be very worried if she knew you were alone. But I can't go to a stranger's house. I'm not a stranger anymore, Tyler. We're friends now." After much discussion, Tyler agreed to go to Richard's house, but only for one night. He promised that if his mother didn't show up the next day, he'd return home. Richard lived in an elegant penthouse in Tribeca. Tyler was impressed by the size of the apartment, but also visibly uncomfortable. "Mr. Richard, your home is really nice, but I don't think I should be here." "Why not?" "Because I'm poor. I don't have nice clothes. I don't know how to act in a place like this." Richard knelt in front of the boy. "Tyler, look at me. You're welcome here. You're polite, respectful, and have a good heart. That's far more important than expensive clothes." That night, Richard made a simple dinner so Tyler wouldn't feel intimidated. They talked about school, the boy's dreams, and life in Hopeville. "What do you want to be when you grow up, Tyler?" "I want to be a doctor, sir, to help people who can't afford medical care." "That's a beautiful dream. I'm sure you'll make it. My mom always says that. She works really hard to pay for my school. Says education is the only inheritance she can give me." Richard felt a pang in his heart. There was something about Jessica's story that moved him deeply. A young woman struggling alone to give her son the best, never speaking about the past. Before bed, Tyler asked to call some neighbors in Hopeville to see if anyone had news of his mother. No one knew anything. "Mr. Richard, I'm scared," Tyler confessed, his eyes brimming with tears. "Scared of what?" "What if my mum doesn't come back? What if something happened to her?" "Don't think like that, Tyler. Your mother is a strong woman, she'll come back." "But what if she doesn't? What'll happen to me?" Richard hugged the boy. "Nothing bad will happen to you, Tyler, I promise." The next morning, Richard woke up with a determination he hadn't felt in years. He would find Jessica Wilson, no matter what it took. While Tyler was still asleep, Richard called Patricia and asked her to hire a private investigator. "I want him to find out everything about Jessica Wilson, where she was born, where she lived, any clues about her life before coming to New York City." "May I ask why you're doing this?" "Because a 12-year-old boy is suffering, Patricia, and I won't let that happen." Tyler woke up worried and insisted on going home to see if his mother had returned. Richard accompanied him to Hopeville. The house where Tyler lived was a small room in the back of a larger home, simple but clean and tidy. Richard noticed the well-kept school books, the neatly folded clothes, the few belongings arranged with care. "My mom likes everything clean," Tyler explained, pride in his voice. "She made a lovely home for us." Tyler showed Richard some drawings he had made for his mother, little love notes he left for her to find when she came home from work. "I always leave a note telling her I love her and that I'm okay, so she won't worry." Richard was moved by the boy's maturity and love. They were interrupted by a knock at the door. It was Mrs. Simmons, the homeowner. "Tyler, I'm so glad you're here. I've been worried about you." "Mrs. Simmons, I still haven't heard from my mom." "I know, dear, but look, a letter came for her yesterday. I left it under the door." Tyler picked up the letter with trembling hands. The envelope was plain, with Jessica's name handwritten on it. "You can open it, Tyler. It might be a clue about where your mother is." Tyler opened the letter and began reading aloud. "Jessica, I heard you live in New York City. I need to talk to you urgently. It's about the past, about what happened 13 years ago. I'll be waiting for you at Mercy Hospital in Boston. I don't have much time. Please come. Signed, your mother, Margaret Wilson." Tyler dropped the letter, his eyes wide. "My mom? She has a mother? My grandmother is alive?" Richard picked up the letter and read it carefully. There was something about this situation that didn't add up. "Tyler, has your mother ever talked about her family?" "Never. Whenever I asked, she said it was just the two of us, that we didn't need anyone else." Richard made an immediate decision. "We're going to Boston, now." "But, sir—" "No buts, Tyler. Your mother is there. We're bringing her home." During the trip to Boston, Tyler was silent, processing the discovery that he had a living grandmother. Richard was also deep in thought, trying to understand why Jessica had cut ties with her family. Mercy Hospital was in the heart of Boston. At the reception desk, Richard asked about Margaret Wilson. "She's been here for a week," the receptionist said, "but only family can visit." "This is her grandson," Richard said, presenting Tyler. "Oh, so you're Tyler. Your grandmother talks about you so much. She's in room 312. In the elevator, Tyler held Richard's hand. "Mr. Richard, I'm scared." "Scared of what?" "What if my grandmother doesn't like me? What if my mom is mad that I came here?" "Tyler, your mom won't be mad. She'll be happy to see you." Room 312 was simple, with 2 beds. In the first lay an elderly woman, frail but with bright eyes. In the second, Richard immediately recognized the woman who could only be Jessica. Jessica was young, with delicate features and brown hair tied in a ponytail. She was asleep, but even then Richard could see the resemblance to Tyler. "Jessica?" Tyler called, stepping closer. Jessica opened her eyes, and seeing her son, began to cry. "Tyler, my boy." She quickly got out of bed and hugged him. "What are you doing here? How did you find me?" "Mom, I was so worried. You disappeared without leaving a message." "I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry. Something very important came up, and I had to rush over." It was then that Jessica noticed Richard standing at the door of the room. "Who are you?" she asked, with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. "My name is Richard Thompson. I helped your son find you." "Mom, Mr. Richard helped me a lot. When you didn't come home, he brought me food and let me stay at his place. Jessica visibly tensed. Mr. Richard, I appreciate you helping my son, but Jessica, interrupted the weak voice of the woman in the other bed. The boy is fine. Don't fight with someone who helped our Tyler. Jessica walked over to her mother's bed. Mom, this is Tyler, my son. Margaret Wilson looked at her grandson with affection. He's beautiful, Jessica, just like you when you were little. Tyler shyly approached his grandmother. Grandma, why did Mom never tell me about you? Margaret looked at Jessica with sadness. Because I did wrong things, sweetheart. Things that hurt your mother deeply. Mom, you don't have to talk about this now, said Jessica, clearly uncomfortable. I do, Jessica. I don't have much time left. I need you both to forgive me. Richard realized he was witnessing an intimate family moment and moved toward the door. I'll let you talk. I'll be in the hallway if you need me. Mr. Richard, you can stay, said Tyler. You're our friend now. Jessica looked at her son tenderly. If Tyler wants you to stay, then stay. Margaret began telling her story. 13 years earlier, when Jessica got pregnant very young, Margaret hadn't accepted it. She was afraid of what the neighbors would say, what the family would think. I said terrible things to your mother, Tyler. I told her she was shaming the family, that I wanted nothing more to do with her. Mom, Jessica tried to interrupt, but Margaret continued. Your mother left home pregnant, with no money, nothing, and I let her go. My pride was bigger than my love for her. But Grandma, why did you change your mind? Because I got sick, sweetheart. And when you're sick, you realize what really matters. I found out you lived in New York City and sent a letter. Jessica held her mother's hand. When I got your letter, I panicked. I thought you were dying. I'm not dying yet, dear, but I want to make up for lost time. I want to know my grandson. I want you to forgive me. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, back to the story. Tyler looked at his mother. Mom, can you forgive Grandma? I already have. You didn't even know her, Tyler. But she's family, and family forgives. Richard was moved by the boy's wisdom. Jessica hugged her son and then approached her mother. Okay, Mom, I forgive you, but I don't want you to leave us again. Never again, dear. Never again. The doctor entered the room to examine Margaret. He explained she was admitted for routine tests, but could be discharged the next day. Is she going to be okay? Tyler asked, worried. Yes, sweetheart. Your grandmother just needs care and lots of love from her family. Jessica looked at Richard with gratitude. Mr. Richard, I don't know how to thank you. You brought my son here, took care of him when I wasn't around. No need to thank me, Jessica. Tyler is a special boy. Anyone would have done the same. No, not anyone would have. You're a good person. Richard blushed at the compliment. There was something about Jessica that made him nervous, in a good way. Mom, Mr. Richard has a really nice house, Tyler said excitedly, and he cooks really well. Tyler, Jessica scolded, you stayed at his place? Just one night, Mom, because I was worried about you. Jessica, your son is very well-mannered. He was a perfect gentleman, said Richard. Thank you. I try my best to teach him good manners. And you succeed. He's an admirable boy. Margaret watched the conversation with a smile on her face. Jessica, Mr. Richard seems like a good man, just like Tyler's father. Richard noticed Jessica tensed up at the comment. Mom, we don't need to talk about that. About what? Asked Tyler, curious. About your father, sweetheart. Tyler looked at his mother in surprise. You knew my dad, Grandma? I did. He was a very good man. He loved your mother very much. Mom, please. Jessica was visibly uncomfortable. Where is he, Grandma? Why doesn't he live with us? Margaret glanced at Jessica, who shook her head slightly. That's a conversation for when you're at home, sweetheart. Richard sensed the tension and decided to change the subject. How about we get something to eat? I bet you're all hungry. Good idea, Jessica agreed. I'll grab something from the hospital cafeteria. No need. I know a restaurant nearby. We can have it delivered here. Mr. Richard, you don't have to spend money on us, Jessica said. It's not spending, it's a pleasure. You're my friends now. Tyler smiled happily. See, Mom, I told you Mr. Richard is a good person. During dinner, Richard observed the family dynamic. Jessica was a devoted mother, always concerned for her son's well-being. Tyler was affectionate with both his mother and his newly found grandmother. Margaret was clearly moved to have her family together again. "Mr. Richard," Margaret said, "may I ask what you do for a living?" "I'm a businessman, Mrs. Margaret. I own a construction company. That must be a lot of work." "It is, but I enjoy what I do." "And do you have family?" Richard hesitated before answering. "No, I live alone." "Never married?" "Mom," Jessica interrupted, "don't ask personal questions." "It's all right, Jessica, I can answer," Richard said. "I never found the right person." "Well, you should look. A man like you shouldn't be alone." "Mom, enough." Jessica was clearly embarrassed. "It's fine," Richard smiled. "Your mother's just worried about my happiness." "I am," Margaret said. "You've done so much for our family. You deserve to be happy." Tyler had been listening with interest. "Mr. Richard, are you really single?" "I am, Tyler. So can you date my mum?" Jessica choked on the water she was drinking. "Tyler," she exclaimed, red with embarrassment. "What, Mum? Mr. Richard is handsome, rich, polite, and kind. You're pretty and kind too. You'd be perfect together." Richard didn't know where to hide from the awkwardness. "Tyler, it doesn't work like that," Jessica said, still flushed. "Why not? Mr. Richard likes you. I can tell by the way he looks at you, and you like him too." "Tyler Wilson!" Jessica was mortified. "It's okay, Jessica," Richard said, trying to ease the tension. "Kids say these things sometimes." "I'm not a kid," Tyler protested. "I'm 12, and I know when two people like each other." Margaret chuckled softly at the situation. "The boy's right, Jessica. Just look at the two of you." "Mom, don't encourage him." Richard decided to steer the conversation elsewhere. "How about we head back to New York City tomorrow, once your mother's discharged?" "Good idea," Jessica agreed, relieved by the change of topic. "Grandma, are you going to live with us now?" Tyler asked. "If your mother allows it," Margaret replied. "Of course, Mom. But our little place is really small." "That's fine, I can sleep on the floor." "No way, Grandma, you'll share the bed with me." Richard grew thoughtful. 3 people in a tiny space wasn't ideal. "Jessica, may I make a suggestion?" "Of course. I have an empty apartment in the same building where I live. It's rented, but the tenant moved out last month. You could stay there until you find a better place." "No, Mr. Richard, you've already done so much for us." "It's not a favor, Jessica. You'd pay rent like any tenant." "But it must be expensive." "Not necessarily. We can negotiate a fair price." "Mom, say yes," Tyler pleaded. "That way we'll be close to Mr. Richard." "Tyler, you're getting too attached to Mr. Richard. He has his own life." "It doesn't bother me at all, Jessica. I enjoy your company." "See, Mom, he likes us." Margaret Wilson supported the idea. "Say yes, Jessica. It'll be good for everyone. And I want to stay close to my grandson too." After much discussion, Jessica finally agreed to the offer. They settled that she'd pay what she could for rent, and when she was able, they'd look for another place. That night, Richard Thompson Walker slept in the chair next to Margaret Wilson's bed, while Jessica and Tyler slept in the other bed. He couldn't stop thinking about how his life had turned around in just a few days. A week earlier, he was a successful but lonely businessman. Now he was involved with a family he'd met by chance. There was something about Jessica that drew him in, but he couldn't quite pinpoint what it was. The next morning, Margaret Wilson was discharged, and they returned to New York City. Richard arranged for an ambulance to ensure the elderly woman traveled comfortably. During the trip, Tyler couldn't stop talking about his plans for the future with his grandmother. He wanted to introduce her to all his friends in Hopeville, show her his school, and have her meet Mrs. Jenkins from the newsstand. "Grandma, you're gonna love Hopeville. The people there are really nice." "I'm sure I will, sweetheart. Anywhere you're happy, I'll love." Jessica stayed quiet, watching the scenery through the window. Richard noticed she seemed worried. "Everything okay, Jessica?" "I'm just thinking about what comes next. So much has changed in just a few days." Change for the better? I think so. But it's scary, you know? Being used to living just with Tyler and suddenly having so many people in my life. You're not being forced into anything, Jessica. If you want, you can keep living like before. No, I don't want that. It's all so new to me. I understand. But you don't need to worry. We'll take it slow at your own pace. Tyler, who'd been listening, turned to his mum. Mum, are you scared? A little, sweetie. Scared of what? Of getting used to good things and then losing them. Richard felt his heart tighten. Jessica had learned not to trust happiness, to always expect the worst. Jessica, not every good thing ends. Sometimes we deserve to be happy. Do we? I'm sure of it. They arrived in New York City by late afternoon. Richard took the family straight to the apartment he'd offered. It was smaller than his penthouse, but still much larger and more comfortable than their tiny place in Hopeville. "Oh my God," Margaret Wilson exclaimed as she walked in. "What a beautiful place." Tyler ran to the window, amazed by the view. "Mom, look! You can see the whole city." Jessica was impressed but visibly uneasy. "Mr. Richard, this is too luxurious for us." "Nonsense. You deserve nice things." "I don't know if I can afford rent for a place like this." "Jessica, we already talked about this. You pay what you can. What matters is that you're comfortable. But it's not fair to you. Let me decide what's fair for me, okay?" Tyler was exploring the apartment, marveling at every room. "Mom, come see my room," he shouted from down the hall. "It's not your room, Tyler, it's just temporary." "Mom, let the boy be happy," said Margaret Wilson. "He deserves to have a nice room." Richard Thompson Walker left the family to settle in and went up to his penthouse. He needed to process everything that had happened in the past few days. His life had completely changed. He, who had always been independent and solitary, now felt responsible for an entire family. And the strangest part was that he liked this feeling. His phone rang. It was Patricia. "Mr. Richard, I got the information you asked for about Jessica Wilson." "Go ahead." "She was born in Boston, into a simple family. She left there 13 years ago, pregnant and alone. Before that, she was studying nursing at a private college." "Nursing?" "Yes, she was in her second year when she got pregnant and dropped out." "Anything else?" "I found Diego's birth certificate. She really didn't list who the father is." "I see. Anything else?" "Just one curious detail. She was engaged when she got pregnant, but the engagement was called off." Richard grew curious. "Do you know the fiancé's name?" "I couldn't find out, but from the records it seems like it was quite a scandal at the time. His family was very well known in town." "Thank you, Patricia. You can wrap up the investigation for now." "Are you sure?" "Yes. I don't want to invade her privacy any more than I already have." Richard hung up, deep in thought. Jessica had been through so much hardship in her life. She got pregnant young, was abandoned by her family, by her fiancé, had to drop out of school and make it on her own in a big city. He admired her strength, the way she had raised Tyler alone, always with dignity and love. The next day, Richard went downstairs to see how the family was settling in. He found Jessica in the kitchen, making breakfast. "Good morning, Jessica." "Good morning, Mr. Richard. Would you like to have breakfast with us?" "Of course, thank you." "I don't know if you'll like it. It's not like what you're used to. I'm sure it'll be delicious." Tyler appeared in the kitchen, still in his pajamas. "Good morning, Mr. Richard. Did you sleep well?" "I did, Tyler." "And you? Did you like your new room?" "I loved it. It's the prettiest room I've ever seen." "I'm glad you like it." "Mr. Richard, can I ask you something?" Tyler said, sitting at the table. "Of course. Why are you doing all this for us?" Jessica stopped stirring the eggs and listened closely. "Because you're special, Tyler. You've reminded me of important things I'd forgotten." "What things?" "That having money isn't everything. That family matters. That helping others makes you feel good. My mom always says that the most important thing is having people you love by your side. Your mom is very wise." Margaret Wilson appeared in the kitchen, leaning on a cane. "Good morning, everyone. Something smells good." Good morning, Grandma. Tyler rushed to help his grandmother sit down. Good morning, Mrs. Margaret. How did you sleep? Like an angel, Mr. Richard. It's been a long time since I slept in such a comfortable bed. During breakfast, Richard observed the family dynamics. There was a lot of love between them, but also some unresolved tension. Jessica was still adjusting to her mother's presence. Tyler was overjoyed with the new situation, and Mrs. Margaret was clearly moved to have her family together again. Jessica, are you going back to work today? Richard asked. Yes. I need to let Mrs. Anderson know I'm okay and can return to work. What about the other house? I'll call them too. I can't afford to stop working. Of course, but if you need anything, you can call me. Thank you, but I'll be fine. Mom, can I stay with Grandma today? Tyler asked. Of course, sweetheart, but don't give her any trouble. What trouble, Jessica? Mrs. Margaret said. I'd love to spend time with my grandson. Richard left for work, but spent the whole day thinking about the family. It was strange how they had become so important to him in such a short time. In the late afternoon, when he returned from work, he found Tyler and Margaret Wilson at the building's playground. The boy was playing with other children while his grandmother watched from a bench. Good afternoon, Mrs. Margaret. How was your day? Wonderful, Mr. Richard. Tyler showed me around the whole building. We met the doorman, the cleaning staff, and other residents. Everyone liked him. I don't doubt it. He's a charming boy. He is, just like his mother. Jessica has always been that way ever since she was little. She made friends with everyone. Mrs. Margaret, can I ask you something? Of course. Why does Jessica never talk about Tyler's father? Margaret Wilson grew thoughtful before answering. It's a sad story, Mr. Richard. Jessica was deeply hurt. Can you tell me? I don't know if I should. It's her business. I understand. Sorry for prying. No, it's not that. It's just... She was very much in love. She thought they would get married, have a family. But when she got pregnant, everything changed. He left her. Worse than that, he denied the child was his, said she was trying to take advantage of the situation. Richard Thompson felt anger toward the man who had hurt Jessica so much. What kind of man does that? A coward. A man who didn't recognize the treasure he had. And she never had contact with him again? Never. She said she wanted nothing to do with him, that she'd raise the child alone. And she did. She did, yes, but it came at a cost. She gave up her dreams to dedicate herself to Tyler. What dreams? She wanted to be a nurse. She was in college doing very well, but she had to drop everything. Richard Thompson grew pensive. Jessica had sacrificed so much to raise Tyler alone. She deserved a second chance in life. Mrs. Margaret, can I ask one more thing? Of course. Does Jessica still think about him? About Tyler's father? I don't know. She never talks about it, but I think so. First love is hard to forget. I see. Why are you asking this? Richard hesitated before answering. Because I really like her, and I want to understand if she could like me too. Margaret Wilson smiled. Ah, so I wasn't imagining things. You really do like my daughter. I do, but I don't know if she could feel the same. Can I give you some advice? Of course. Jessica learned not to trust men. She'll need time to believe you're different. I'm willing to wait. Then you have a chance, because I see how she looks at you. There's something there. Richard smiled, feeling hope grow in his chest. Jessica arrived from work in the late afternoon, looking tired, but relieved. How was your day? Richard asked. Good. Mrs. Anderson was worried when I disappeared, but she understood the situation, and the other employer did too. That's good. Mr. Richard, can I ask you something? Of course. Why are you doing all this for us, really? Richard looked her in the eyes. Because you've changed my life, Jessica. It's been a long time since I felt useful, since I felt needed. You gave me that. But you have a life, a job, responsibilities. I do. But something was missing. I was missing a family. Jessica fell silent, processing his words. Mr. Richard, I don't want you to have illusions about me. I'm not an easy woman to deal with. I have a lot of problems, a lot of insecurities. We all do, Jessica. No one's perfect. But I have more than most. I have a son, an elderly mother, little money, little education. Jessica, you're one of the smartest, strongest women I've ever met. You raised an amazing boy on your own. That's no small thing. Thank you. But still, I don't know if I could trust someone again. I'm not asking you to trust me right away. I'm just asking for a chance to prove I'm worthy of your trust. Jessica looked at him for a long moment. You really do like me, don't you? I do. Why? You could have any woman. Beautiful, educated women from your social class. Because you're real, Jessica. You're genuine. You have a good heart and a beautiful soul. That matters more than anything else. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything now, just think about it, okay? Okay. That evening, Richard had dinner with the family at the apartment. Tyler was excited, talking about his day with his grandmother. Margaret Wilson was visibly happy to have the family together. Jessica was more relaxed, laughing at her son's stories. Mom, did you know Mr. Richard has never been in a serious relationship? Tyler blurted out. Tyler, Jessica scolded him. What? I asked him, and he said no. You don't ask personal questions like that. But he's part of the family now, isn't he? Richard nearly choked on his food. Tyler, Mr. Richard isn't part of our family. But he could be, the boy said innocently. Tyler Wilson? What? I like him. Grandma likes him. And you like him too, I can tell. Okay, that's enough of this conversation. Mom, you're turning red, Tyler pointed out. I am not red. Yes, you are. You always get like this when you're nervous. Margaret chuckled softly at the situation. The boy's right, Jessica. You are red. Mom, don't encourage him. Richard decided to save Jessica from the awkward moment. Tyler, how about we talk about school? Do you like studying? I do. I like math and English, and I want to learn Spanish. Spanish is really important. I could help you with that. Really? You speak Spanish? I do. That's so cool. Mom, Mr. Richard is going to teach me Spanish. If he wants to and has the time, Jessica said. Of course I want to. It'd be my pleasure to teach you, Tyler. Thank you, Mr. Richard. You're the best person in the world. Richard was moved by the boy's sincerity. You're special too, Tyler. Very special. After dinner, Richard said goodbye to the family and went up to his penthouse. He felt happier than he had in years. His phone rang. It was Patricia. Mr. Richard, there's a problem. What problem? Some employees at the company are talking about you and the family living in the building. Talking about what? That you're getting involved with common people, that it could hurt the company's image. Richard was furious. What right do they have to comment on my personal life? Mr. Richard, you know how the business world is. People talk. Let them talk. My personal life is nobody's business. But you have to think about the company. You've worked hard to build your reputation. Patricia, my reputation means nothing if I can't be happy. All right, Mr. Richard. I just wanted to warn you. Thanks for the heads up, but I won't change anything because of gossip. Richard hung up, deep in thought. He knew there'd be resistance for getting involved with Jessica and her family. But he didn't care. They were worth any sacrifice. The next morning, Richard went down to have breakfast with the family. He found Jessica in the kitchen looking worried. Good morning, Jessica. Everything okay? Good morning, Mr. Richard. I'm a little concerned. About what? Last night, the doorman told me some people in the building are complaining about us being here. Complaining about what? That we don't fit the building's profile. That our presence might lower the property values. Richard was angry. That's ridiculous. You're good, respectful, hard-working people. No one has the right to complain. But, Mr. Richard, maybe it's better if we find another place. I don't want to cause trouble for you. Jessica, you're not leaving because of prejudice. This building is partly mine and you're my guests. But no buts. You stay here as long as you want. Tyler walked into the kitchen, looking sad. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sweetheart. Why the long face? Asked Jessica. Yesterday, when I was playing at the playground, some boys said I shouldn't be here, that this place is only for rich kids. Richard Thompson Walker was outraged. What boys were these? I don't know their names, but they live in the building. Tyler, don't pay attention to them. You have just as much right to be here as anyone else. But, Mr. Richard, what if they're right? What if I really shouldn't be here? Listen carefully, Tyler. You're a smart, polite, respectful boy. You have more right to be here than any ill-mannered child. Are you sure? I'm absolutely sure. Jessica was visibly shaken by the situation. Mr. Richard, maybe it's better if we look for another place. I don't want Tyler to go through this. Jessica, running away isn't the solution. You haven't done anything wrong. But people don't want us here. Some people, not everyone. And their opinion doesn't matter. Margaret Wilson appeared in the kitchen, leaning on her cane. Good morning, everyone. Why the long faces? Grandma, some people in the building don't like us, explained Tyler. Oh, really? And since when is that our problem? But, Grandma, no buts, my grandson. There will always be people who don't like us. That doesn't mean we're inferior. Mrs. Margaret is right, Richard Thompson Walker supported. We can't let prejudice shake us. Easy to say when you're not in the situation, murmured Jessica. Jessica, I understand it's hard, but you deserve respect, and I'll make sure you get it. How? By talking to the building manager, making it clear that you're my guests and that any issues should come to me directly. Mr. Richard, I don't want you to get into trouble because of us. It's not trouble, Jessica. It's a matter of principle. Tyler was listening to the conversation quietly. Mr. Richard, can I ask you something? Of course, Tyler. Why are some people mean to others? Because they're afraid, Tyler. Afraid of those who are different from them. But why are they afraid? Because they don't know them. When we don't know someone, sometimes we get the wrong idea about them. But if they got to know us, would they like us? I'm sure they would. Then let's introduce ourselves to them. Richard Thompson Walker smiled at the boy's innocence. That's a good idea, Tyler, but it's not always that simple. Why not? Because some people don't want to get to know others. They'd rather keep their wrong ideas. That's too bad. They're missing out on meeting nice people. Exactly. Jessica was listening to the conversation fondly. My son is very wise, she said, running her hand through Tyler's hair. Takes after his mother, said Richard Thompson Walker. Thank you. That afternoon, Richard Thompson Walker scheduled a meeting with the building manager. He wanted to clarify the situation and ensure Jessica and her family were respected. The manager, a middle-aged man named Michael, received Richard Thompson Walker in his office. Richard, I've received some complaints about your new tenants. What kind of complaints? That they don't fit the building's profile, that they might bring security concerns. Security concerns? Michael, we're talking about a hard-working mother, a 12-year-old boy, and an elderly woman. What problems could they possibly bring? You know how it is, Richard. People are concerned about the building's standards. What standards? Of prejudice? It's not prejudice. It's just that... It's just what, Michael? They're decent, hard-working, polite people. What more could anyone want? You're right, Richard. But you know how the other residents are. I do. And that's exactly why I want to make it clear that Jessica and her family are my guests. Any issues, they can come to me directly. All right, I'll pass the message along. And Michael, I want you to know I'm very serious about this. I won't tolerate any kind of discrimination. Understood, Richard. Richard Thompson Walker left the meeting hoping the situation would resolve itself, but he knew changes in attitude don't happen overnight. When he returned home, he found Jessica on the porch, gazing at the city. Mind if I join you? Of course. I spoke with the building manager. I think things will improve. Thank you for doing that, but I know it's not easy to change people's minds. It really isn't, but it's worth trying. Mr. Richard, can I ask you something? Always. Why are you facing all this trouble for us? It would have been much easier for you if you hadn't gotten involved with us. Richard fell silent for a moment, considering his answer. Jessica, have you ever been through hard times in life? Plenty. And when you were going through those times, would you have wanted someone to help you? Of course. Then you understand why I'm doing this, because it's the right thing to do. But it's more than that, isn't it? It is, because I care about you, deeply. We care about you too. Really? Really? Tyler adores you. So does my mom. And you? I care too, more than I probably should. Richard felt his heart race. Why shouldn't you? Because I'm scared. Scared of getting hurt again. Scared of hurting you. Jessica, I would never do anything to hurt you. You say that now, but what if you change your mind? I won't. How can you be so sure? Because what I feel for you is unlike anything I've ever felt before. Jessica looked into his eyes. What do you feel for me? I love you, Jessica. She fell silent, processing his words. You love me? I do. I love you. I love Tyler. I love your mum. I love the family you've built. Mr. Richard, you can call me Richard Thompson, or just Richard. Richard, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything right now, just know it's true. I feel something for you too, but I'm so afraid. Afraid of what? That this is too good to be true. That one day you'll realize you could have someone better than me. Jessica, there's no one better than you. You're perfect just the way you are. I'm not perfect, I have plenty of flaws. We all do, but your flaws don't matter to me because I truly love you. Jessica began to cry. It's been so long since anyone said that to me. Then get used to it because I'll say it every day. Richard, I'm scared to believe it. You don't have to believe it yet. Just give me a chance to prove it. Okay, I'll try. Richard hugged her, feeling he'd finally reached her heart. Promise you'll try? I promise. Then it's okay. We'll take it slow at your pace. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for giving me a chance. They stayed embraced on the porch, looking out at the city. Both knew this was the start of something special. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of the story and where you're watching from. If you have anything to share with us, leave your honest thoughts in the comments. Do you think Richard made the right choice by getting involved with the family? We'd love to hear your opinion. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss more heartfelt stories.